All right, so this is our T300 Extreme Curve. It's going to do your drop stitch welding and other inflatable weldings. So we're first going to turn on the machine, and we come down here to the main breaker, and all we do is flip that up, and you'll notice the lights come on. You want the incoming air to be regulated around 90 to 110 psi. If you go a little bit higher, all that it's going to change is your weld rollers or your swing is going to come down and faster. It's just going to add more air into the machine. So anytime we flip that breaker on, we must always hit the reset button. So I haven't hit it yet, and you'll notice foot pedal doesn't trigger. Must always hit reset, then it opens everything up. So once you hit that reset button, you can mess around with your screen, but we'll start here on the weld roller pressure. So whenever the weld rollers are disengaged, you'll see that it's reading 0%. Once you apply the pressure, you'll see that it bumps up to roughly 20 psi. And that's a pretty good area where you should stay. If you get really thick material, you might have to go up a little bit, but for the most part, 20 psi works across the board. There's a knob right here. So you just pull it, well, it's already pulled out. Pull that out, then you spin it up. And the way you can really tell is when you push it down, you can see it go up or down. And sometimes after you set it, I do like to lift up a few times because sometimes it doesn't regulate right. So just twist it and that looks good. So after the heat button is the swing arm. We refer to this as the swing arm. So when we have this turned on, when I press the pedal, it will engage and swing into the welding position. If we do turn this off, you can practice running the material without welding. But whenever you're ready to weld and comfortable, turn it on and it'll swing into position. So this is our weld roller button. It is the same function as the foot pedal. So it's going to lower and raise your weld roller from welding position to not. So like I was saying, this is the main screen. But if you ever need to make some minor adjustments, we may have to hit the menu button and go into welding functions. What that will open up is our weld roller speeds. So you can see right here, our upper weld roller is at 100. To explain that a little bit, 100 would mean that it's 1-to-1 with the two wheels. So the upper weld roller speed is at 100%. That means both wheels, top and bottom weld roller, are 1-to-1, running the same speed. You cannot adjust the bottom wheel, but if we wanted to make the top wheel go a little bit faster, we just go 102, 101, and that can help pull material, the top panel, through a little bit quicker than the lower panel. If you're having the opposite problem, you can always turn it down as well, make the lower wheel run faster than the upper wheel. But 1-to-1 is where we want to try to be. Below that is the puller speed. So like I was saying earlier, that's always going to be set a little bit higher as it is right now. Down here we have our drive. If you ever get anything caught or stuck in the wheels, you can always switch it to reverse. And that will run the wheels backwards and you can get things pulled out of the machine. You can turn the drive off and foot pedal override, which I don't recommend, but that changes it to where right now, when it's on, you press the pedal and it stays, the swing will stay in position. Then you must press it to stop. So press to start, press to stop. When the override is off, you will have to keep your foot on the pedal the whole time. If your foot slips off, it will stop welding. And then the last and pretty important setting is our drive delay time. Right now we have it set at 0.7 seconds, so it's pretty quick, but you can switch that to 3 or 4. Most material, if you set it at 4 or 5, it's going to burn a hole in it. So it's almost like a preheat option. If you're too quick, it won't weld at the very beginning, maybe the first inch. So yesterday when we were playing around, 7 0.7 seconds seem to work out fine. So when I click the foot pedal, this will swing in, and you'll see the rollers will sit for 0.7 of a second. So it's really quick, but swing that in, it sits, then they start rolling. If I set it to 3, you're gonna see it count. It's gonna, when I swing it in, it's gonna sit for 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3. Then it's gonna start welding. So it's a preheat option. Once again, you go too fast, it's not gonna be able to weld the first inch of your material. If you go too high or sit there for too long, you're gonna burn a hole right through it. So 0.7 seemed to work for us pretty good yesterday. The most important thing of this machine though is nozzle alignment, where this nozzle actually sits between these weld rollers. So when I turn the heat on, the nozzle will drop down a little bit. So you always want to check the nozzle when it's fully heated up to temperature. If we're at room temperature, it's going to be sitting like this. If you put it up to 220 degrees, it's going to drop a little bit, 400, 700. So it always fluctuates according to the temperature of it. So we have this 3-axis chuck. So this is our 3-axis chuck. Easiest way to remember which way these knobs go is that when you grab it, you're pointing to the direction. So this knob will move that nozzle further away or closer to the weld roller. This one is up and down. It'll drop the nozzle or raise it. And this one is left and right. If you're a little bit over, or you need to pull it back to square it up with the nozzle, you can use that axis or 3-axis chuck to get that in the proper location. It's very important that we try to keep it pretty consistent to how close we are for our welds. If we find that our black material welds good at 400 degrees at a perfect alignment, if we're backed away a little bit, we're going to have to be a little bit hotter, or we're not going to get the same quality weld. So you want it to be somewhat in the right place every time. So it's out of alignment. I'm going to work my way to get it aligned. So left and right looks good there. Up and down looks good. And now we'll walk it in to get roughly like an 1/8 inch. About right there. Okay, so some things to watch out for, or some other good knowledge. This nozzle gets extremely hot. If you touch the raw metal on here, you're gonna get a little burn. It's gonna burn you quick. So we don't want to touch it. You can bump into this. This is like a cast almost for it. So it does get warm, but it's not gonna allow you to get burnt. Another thing, if you don't let your nozzles cool down all the way before switching out, going from 1 inch to 2 inch, this attachment right here that keeps the nozzle attached to the heat system gets very hot and stays hot for a while. So be very careful on that. Another thing to